Max Verstappen's new Red Bull teammate Isack Hadjar has just been handed what might be the most brutal job in Formula One, and the scary part is, it isn't even about being fast. It's about surviving a role that can quietly destroy your confidence, your reputation, and your entire career trajectory. Because when Damon Hill says the situation is impossible, he isn't being dramatic. He's pointing at something Red Bull has proven again and again. In that team, the second seat is not a partnership, it's a test. And that's why this choice feels impossible. Because if Hadjar tries to become the perfect number 2, he risks becoming invisible. But if he tries to fight Max Verstappen too hard, he risks becoming the next driver Red Bull moves on from without blinking. This isn't a normal teammate dynamic. It's a pressure chamber disguised as a lineup, and it's happening at the exact moment the sport is heading toward the 2026 reset, where every lap will be judged through the harshest lens in Formula One. Is he helping Max win, or is he trying to become Max? Red Bull have lived this story before. That second seat isn't just a seat. It's a trap disguised as opportunity. It's a mirror that makes good drivers look average. Because your performance isn't measured against the grid, it's measured against Verstappen. And when your teammate is the reference point for an entire era, the margins stop being normal. Every 10th becomes a headline. Every mistake becomes a narrative, and every quiet weekend becomes a question mark hanging over your future. Now here's the part most fans miss. Damon Hill's point isn't only that Max is faster, it's that Max is the center of gravity inside that team. Hill basically says Max rules, and whoever sits next to him becomes the supporting act. And then he drops the most brutal question of all. Are you really world champion material if you can accept being number 2? That's the psychological trap. Because if Hadjar believes he's the real deal, how does he accept being a helper? And if he accepts being a helper too easily, what does that say about how much he believes in himself? That's why this is so dangerous. Hadjar has to prove he's strong enough to deserve a future title shot, while also proving he's humble enough to protect Max's title chances right now. Two messages that clash. Two identities that can't exist at full strength in the same garage. And if you think that's exaggerated, just look at how many drivers have entered Red Bull thinking they're the next star and left looking like they never belonged in the first place. Because the hardest part of that seat isn't the car, it's the comparison. You don't just race the other drivers, you race your teammates' reputation. You race a team structure that already has a number 1. You race the strategy bias that naturally forms around the guy the team trusts most. And on top of all of that, you race the media storm that starts the moment you're even slightly off the pace. It's not pressure, it's a daily identity crisis. Here's where it gets even sharper. Hill says Hadjar has to accept being number 2, but then he asks the question that exposes how unfair this really is. Would Max ever accept that? And the answer is obvious. No. Verstappen's entire mindset is built around control, aggression, and dominance. He doesn't exist to support someone else. So Hadjar is being asked to do something that Verstappen would never do in his life, and that alone tells you the power dynamic is already decided before the first lap is even driven. So what happens to a rookie's mentality in that environment? You spend your whole life being the main character. Every series, every promotion, every championship dream is built on one belief: I'm the next guy. And then you step into Red Bull, and the reality hits you like a wall. Your job isn't to become the hero right now. Your job is to protect the hero who already exists. And that's where careers silently break. Not with crashes, not with dramatic retirements, but with slow mental erosion. Because if Hadjar plays it too safe, too obedient, too clean, he becomes useful, but not feared. He becomes a tool. And tools are replaceable. But if he pushes too hard, if he fights Max even in small ways, the narrative instantly flips into something toxic. Suddenly he's disruptive, suddenly he's causing tension, suddenly he's the problem. And in a team like Red Bull, being labelled the problem is the fastest way to lose the seat. This is the hidden political knife fight. Hadjar needs to think long-term. He needs to tell himself, I'm here to strengthen myself, to learn, to become number 1 somewhere one day. But here's the brutal part. He has to do that without looking like a threat. He has to look ambitious without causing friction. He has to show confidence without triggering internal alarms. He has to build his future while keeping the present stable for Verstappen. And that's where 2026 becomes the nightmare multiplier. Because the 2026 rule reset is coming. with major changes to the car and the power unit era. That means Hadjar isn't entering Red Bull in a stable environment. He's entering during uncertainty, and uncertainty changes power fast. If the car is tricky, if the era becomes unpredictable, if the team needs a clear development leader, there's no debate who that will be. It will be Max. Which means Hadjar's freedom shrinks instantly. He becomes the guy who must adapt to Max's direction, Max's feedback priorities, and Max's preferences, while still trying to look like someone who could lead a team someday. Now let's make the debate real, because this is where the audience should split hard. If you were Hadjar, what would you do? Would you accept being the number 2, learn quietly, and build a long game? Or would you risk everything trying to challenge Max early, knowing Red Bull doesn't tolerate disruption? Pick a side, because whichever one you choose reveals how you understand Formula 1. My take is simple, and you're allowed to disagree with it aggressively. Hadjar survives by playing the long game with surgical patience. He needs clean points, calm energy, and consistent weekends. But he also needs flashes of aggression that remind the team he isn't harmless. Not rebellion, not war, just pressure. The kind of pressure that whispers, "I'm learning, but I'm not here to be comfortable." Because here's the truth behind Hill's impossible choice. If Hadjar becomes too comfortable being second, he risks never escaping it. But if he refuses to accept being second, he risks being rejected entirely. That's the trap. That's the second seat curse. It doesn't just test your speed, it tests your ego management, your politics, your patience, and your ability to lose small battles without losing your identity. And that's why this story matters right now. Because Red Bull aren't just thinking about the next race, they're thinking about the next era. They need stability around Verstappen, but they also need a future plan for life after Verstappen. And Hadjar is being thrown into the harshest environment possible to prove he belongs in that future. The opportunity is enormous, but the risk is even bigger. Red Bull will make you famous fast, but fame at Red Bull comes with a price tag you pay with your confidence. So when people say Hadjar has the best opportunity on the grid, they're right, and also completely wrong. Because the best opportunity is always paired with the most dangerous expectations. Every gap to Max becomes a headline. Every mistake becomes a story. And every strong performance becomes a new question. Is he actually ready, or is Max just controlling the situation? This is why the choice is impossible. And it's why Hadjar's first few races could define his entire career before he even settles into the team. Because at Red Bull, you don't get time to grow. You get time to prove you belong, or time to be replaced. And the final twist is this. Hadjar's real job isn't to beat Verstappen, it's to survive Verstappen. To grow next to him without shrinking, to contribute without disappearing, to learn without becoming passive. And if he can do that, he doesn't just earn a seat. He earns the one thing you can't buy in Formula 1, credibility. If you want the next piece of this puzzle, connect this story with the bigger 2026 question hanging over the grid. Because if Red Bull's new era becomes chaotic, the second seat becomes even more dangerous. In a stable car, you can slowly improve. In a mystery car, your weaknesses get exposed instantly. And that's what makes this Hadjar story one of the most underrated pressure situations in the entire sport. SEO-optimized YouTube description. Isack Hadjar has joined Red Bull, and Damon Hill says he's facing an impossible Max Verstappen choice. At Red Bull, the second seat isn't just about speed, it's about politics, pressure, and surviving next to the most dominant driver of the era. With the 2026 regulation reset coming, the tension inside Red Bull could explode, and Hadjar's first races may define his entire career. In this video, we break down what Hill really meant, why the Red Bull second seat breaks drivers, how the Verstappen teammate trap works, and what Hadjar must do to survive without losing his future. Debate time. Should Hadjar accept being Red Bull's number 2 or risk everything trying to challenge Max?